What's that?
Do you have the music up here? Is that what
Yeah, that's what they're playing right now. Yeah. Okay.
So there's somebody on just before you?
Yes, there's somebody on 8 to 11.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so.
So where the hell is John?
Yeah, I've been late the past 2 weeks, including this week, so he's probably worried about me. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. All right, everybody, 90.1 FM WECS. This is After Hours. I'm your host, Jon Francois, and we're going to start things off a little differently. Usually, I just open the show with some nonsense, but now I actually have a guest to start off the show. Actress Ellen Levenson. Is that how you spell your name?
That's right.
Okay, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you here.
Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Thanks for asking me.
Yeah. So I hope I'm not throwing you off by taking you back, like way back. But I just want to wonder, as an actor myself, like what made you first want to get into acting? Can you remember that moment that first sparked your interest?
I was 4.
Okay.
We won't say how far back, John. And I know
That's
you
fine.
said way back, but let's be cool here.
That's fine.
I was 4, and I was the first grandchild and first great-grandchild on either side of my family. So I got a lot of attention. And I had really curly hair. And my grandparents and my parents grew up with Shirley Temple.
Really?
Who I'm sure you've heard of.
Oh, of course, yes.
So with the curly hair and the round cheeks and the whole bit, I looked like Shirley Temple. At least that's what they told me to.
Yeah.
I did. So
Can you believe that she's still alive?
Shirley Temple Black?
Yeah.
That's right, ambassador. She was an ambassador. I don't know if she's retired now or...
I think so. I believe she's the only star from that golden age of Hollywood that's alive. Because almost every star I know, from like Clark Gable to Joan Crawford, I mean, they're all just gone. But
Yeah.
Shirley Temple's there.
Well, you know what they say, actors never retire, they just go into politics.
Yeah.
Right? So,
Good saying.
but I like to sing. So what I would do was, my parents would say, Ellen, sing for Grandma and Grandpa and do this. Well, it was very cool because I would sing and I would do my little thing and I got applause. And
Okay.
money, sometimes.
Well, what type of music would
And
you
I
sing?
kind of like that. Popular things, songs my mom had taught me, some of Shirley Temple songs.
Of course.
I'm a Little Teapot, on the Good Ship Lollipop.
Yeah.
That was before my time, but that's what they knew.
Mm-hmm.
So my mom would sing to me, I'd learn them, and then I would sing. And so again, I think, maybe not consciously, but I associated performing with attention and
Mhm.
making people happy and responding, and obviously I kind of like that. So
That's good.
that's my initial, I would say my initial recollection of wanting to get into it.
Okay.
As far as seriously, as I got older, I took dancing lessons.
Where did you take lessons?
Tap and ballet. Well, we moved around a lot. So I started off here in Connecticut. I was born in Washington, D.C. So wherever we were living, my parents were supportive of dancing. And I think a lot of little girls at that time took dancing lessons.
Mhm.
That's what they did. As I got older, I really liked to sing. That was really my first love. Some ways it still is.
Mhm.
And my parents paid for me to have vocal lessons,
Great.
which I studied voice all through junior high school and high school. And of course I tried out for chorus, and I was in clubs, and I was in musicals and plays, and anything that I could get involved in I did. I had recitals through my private vocal coach and things like that.
Do you have a favorite, as far as, singing, dancing, acting, or do you, love them equally?
Well, I would say my experience has been musical theater,
Yeah.
mostly. Comedic.
Okay.
I
Now,
mean, I
what
tend
types
to
of
have a-
musicals have you been in?
Oklahoma, Hello Dolly, The Unsinkable Molly Brown. Those were the 3 most notable that I did. And then I did talent shows. I
Yeah.
MC talent shows in high school, and I had a comedy act in high school that I did with a girlfriend.
Great.
When I went on to college, I majored in theater, and then I started doing more drama because part of it was the curriculum.
Yeah, of course.
Obviously,
Of course.
demanding you to do that.
Now what was the curriculum like in your theater department?
Well, I was at the University of Connecticut.
Oh, yes.
And regardless of what you declared as a major, which of course, doesn't come until your junior year, I believe. So the first 2 years, obviously, I had my electives, but if you were going into the theater, regardless of what branch, you still were expected to learn set design or set construction and all that, all the behind the scenes, so to speak. Because as I've found out and continuing to find out, the more you know about the whole business of show business or theater, the better you are at whatever it is that you've chosen to specialize in.
Yeah, exactly.
So you're more well-rounded, and you can appreciate what the crew does, what folks do in front of the camera. I mean, production, all of it. So voice and diction and set design.
Now, I mean, I'm wondering about something. Is it possible to appreciate what the tech people and the costume people, what they do? Is it possible to appreciate that, but also to say, I would never do that as a career. That's something that would never interest me. Like I'm more because I mean, doing theater myself, it's kind of a surprise when tech people say to me, "Oh God, I'd never perform in my life. I'd never do that." And I just kind of look at them like, "Well, I would never do tech. I couldn't have the patience to just like sit there and take notes or whatever. Like performing to me is just it's a more like active, energetic thing. It really gets you up on your feet."
Well, it's funny that you should say that because at the time I agreed with what you're saying.
Yeah.
For when I was going through it, the fact that I had to do set design and construction. I mean, I had a drafting compass. I ended up getting a tetanus shot my freshman year because I stabbed myself with it. I mean, this is how coordinated I was with the drafting compass.
Okay.
And of course, I'm thinking, why am I even taking this class? Because that's really not what I'm into.
Yeah.
And so it was very removed for me. Now, as I've gotten to do more, I do have an appreciation for that because there is creativity in directing. There is, I'm not sure creativity is the word, but there is a skill and some creativity in terms of cinematography and camera work. Having an eye for angles and capturing an actor on film and knowing what angle the actor looks best in that shot and knowing whether you want a long shot or a close-up or whatever. So I didn't appreciate that, I guess I could say, at that time.
Yeah.
Because I just didn't have that whole concept. It was all about me and,
it was just kind of I want to be the star.
I need to learn what I want to learn and that's it. So to your point, I think you learn that as you go through it more and you actually work on a set or you're exposed to it because I have done that now and I've seen it really is physically challenging and it is mentally challenging just from the standpoint of other folks that depend on you to make that production come together, whether it's a stage production, film, television, whatever it may be. It takes everybody to put it together. So everyone's got their focus and they have to be skilled at it. I mean, time is money and you've got to be good at it and you don't want to have 100 takes.
Yeah, of course, of course. Now, speaking of takes, is there a certain style of acting? Well, I wouldn't say style, but is there a certain medium of acting you prefer? Like, are you more of a film person, television person, theater person? Because, I mean, to me, they both have their pros and cons.
Yes, and they're different.
Yeah, they're widely different.
Very different.
Now, theater, as great as it is, because it's live, you get that immediate response. You're pressured to have it on the first take. I mean, if you don't have it on that first try, in front of the audience, then it's going to be embarrassing. Whereas film and television, you can just go through the process many, many times. You can take many repeated takes until you get it right. What's it like for you?
That is a good point. Most of what I've done has been stage, but through the training that I've had in the last year and a half, a lot of it is focused on commercial, film, and television because it's lucrative. And again, the more versatile you can be, the more projects you can submit for and work. I mean, that's the aim that we all have. Is it's a passion, but you want to be able to do it, whether it's paid or unpaid. You want to be able to do it. So, the more you can offer and bring to the table, the more likelihood you have of working.
Mm.
So to your point, I'm still learning about being in front of a camera and film and television because it is different.
Yes.
It is different. So I'm not sure. I
Okay.
mean, I know what I've done, but I'm open to different things, and I've submitted for and am doing different things.
Yeah.
So
Now, originally coming from theater, I have a question. Particularly about the physicality that you display in theater versus film and television. Because I grew up with film and television, thinking that this is going to be where I am because I loved watching movies and TV shows growing up. And I'm more of a low key guy, and I thought that the intimacy and subtlety of film and television would fit that. But as I got into theater, I realized like, whoa, you could really do a lot of physicalness. You could really put out a lot of energy, a lot of movement, a lot of pizzazz that you can't really do with film and television because like the camera is just not big enough for that. Transitioning from theater to film and television, did you have that struggle of just trying to really contain yourself, contain any theatrical energy you might have that might not transfer so well into camera?
well, the first thing is that the camera picks up obviously a lot of things that the stage does not. Okay, because the camera is functioning as an in-your-face audience, if you will.
Yeah.
So your expressions and the eyes are everything. If you look at any film that's good or bad, I'm not going to specify a particular film, but if you watch film and you look in the actor's eyes, that's a big factor.
Yeah.
And in stage, you've got to make the people in the last row see and hear and react to everything. So there's obviously voice projection involved.
Exactly.
As you mentioned, the physicality of it is legitimate as well, because it's not that you have to have bigger moves and grandiose kinds of gestures, but they have to be deliberate and they have to be impactful, because they have to, like they say, read. Across
reach to the
a
back.
Massive auditorium or pavilion or wherever you might be performing.
Yeah.
With the camera, we work in what we call frames. So you want to know how you're being framed, okay? When the director does this, because if you're making a gesture in a close-up or in a long shot and the gesture is too broad, it's going to look funny, because you're going to see a head motion or you're going to see a finger fly across somebody's face, which looks odd because you don't have the whole proportion. So that's where the director comes in as well, because obviously they're looking through the lens of the camera. So you're right that it is a different type of play, if you will.
Yeah.
Because the camera is, you're not necessarily playing to the camera, obviously. The fourth wall, we talk about the fourth wall. But you do have to be aware of it in terms of how it captures you. And the camera does not read you the way you think it does. Having been taking classes ongoing, and we record what we do and we play it back for critique. And one of the things is that certain emotions, any emotion, doesn't necessarily read the way you think it does. Sometimes you think that you're emoting something happy, and when you see it back on film, the camera literally sucks that energy out of you. So even though it's maybe a smaller range of motion sometimes, the intensity or the energy is what I want to say, has to be there, because the camera will read that and it will, as I said, kind of suck it out of you, so that what you're projecting isn't as big as you think, or it might be a totally different emotion. I mean, you could be looking thoughtful and you really look sad or mad. So on stage it may not read that way, but on the camera doesn't lie, as they say. It picks up all those subtleties. So there is a difference in how you carry yourself and your facial expressions.
Yeah, definitely. If there's anything I give the camera credit for, is that if you're someone that conveys their emotions in a very intimate way, then that's where the camera comes in. In theater, it's very tough because especially if you have like a 3/4 thrust, you have to worry about, as they say, playing the room, like making sure that every single side of the room, sees that you're sad or you're happy or you're angry. So yeah, I mean, it's a very challenging thing to do. But yeah, now along the way in your acting education, did you learn any techniques? Meisner, Stanislavski. I can't pronounce that name correctly.
Yeah.
But,
Stanislavski. Right, that's correct.
Yeah, there you go.
And Sanford Meisner.
Yeah.
So I'm going to give a little plug here.
Okay, great.
I do study with Mr. Reno Venturi at the Actors Gym in Hamden, Connecticut.
Yeah.
I've been studying there, and he's wonderful. And I will say, not just as an acting coach or a teacher, but he has a way of conveying what the business part of show business is. And I think that is something refreshing and something that you're not going to find.
Mm-hmm.
It is a business, and one of the things that he imparts, and I will say that I totally agree with it, is that it is a job, and there is a professionalism that is expected in the industry, and you have to treat it that way. It's not just... it takes the same energy to promote yourself and to build that type of career as it would to be a teacher or any other profession.
Mm-hmm.
So, having said that, we learn a combination of techniques. I would not say that, we follow strictly Meisner or Stanislavski, because there's something to be learned from both. One is more, the as-if, and then one is more sense memory and go back and live it,
Yeah.
So there's a blending of this, because I don't think, for me, either one of them is totally, I don't want to say right, but it excludes the other a little bit, and I really think that it's a blend, and so that's what we talk about.
Okay.
As rather than labeling it, I wouldn't want to say that. I would say probably it's both, leaning a little to Meisner,
Okay.
but and both techniques have worked well for many actors and actresses over the years. I mean, you can have, if you go back and look, there's just as many successful folks in the profession that followed the studios and teachings of folks from Stanislavski and the disciples, if you will, of Meisner. So
Okay.
there's my answer.
Now, I remember running into a professor in the past who teaches acting, who basically gave me the impression that if you don't learn the Meisner technique, if you don't really on it down, then you're going to have like a real struggle conveying any sort of realism in your scenes. Now, this could just be my impression. Maybe I'm putting his words the wrong way, but I guess what I'm trying to get to is in order for you to really bring out more legitimacy and realism as an actor, do you necessarily need to go to those techniques, or is it possible to go in another direction, which is...
Well, I mean, to be a good actor, and I use actor versus actress because it's all encompassing. I'm not trying to be gender biased in any way.
Yeah, gender neutral.
Right, gender neutral. But truth is what we look for in acting. When all of us think about performances that have moved us, whether you're an actor or not, there's a truth to it. You have to see the truth. There's a believability that person is that person that they're conveying. So there has to be honesty, there has to be truth in what you do. To your point, there are, I'm sure, many teachers, professors, coaches that really believe that a particular technique has worked well for them, and therefore that's what they would like to teach. And again, I wouldn't argue that that's a wrong thing. That's their perspective. But I think you develop a comfort. The key is to find a professor, or in my case, an acting coach or an acting teacher, whose style or whose methods you're comfortable with. Before I started informal training with Reno, as opposed to classes through education and college and so forth, I met with him and we discussed expectations and how he looked at the profession and so forth. So I think it's like anything. I mean, when you get beyond the college level, that you really need to go and talk to folks and find out, because there are a lot of people that, for lack of a better word, are going to scam you. Here's pay me and I'll show you how to be an actor. Doesn't work that way.
Okay.
So like anything else, I think if you were going to go to a law school or go anywhere, you would be interviewed, but you'd interview their credentials as well. And so that's what I'm trying to say. So I think it's more what works for one actor might not work well for another one. So I find it difficult to just say, okay, well, you have to have this technique, you have to have this technique. I think it's good to read on them all without getting yourself confused, because I think at some point, especially a beginning actor, you can get really overwhelmed by taking in different techniques and trying to absorb them and blend them and getting really caught up in the mechanics of that part. So again, which is why you need, everyone does a teacher for the guidance and the leadership to show you how to do it. So, but that would be my honest answer. I think anything that's just one thing tends to exclude things that might be, that's any learning process. There's rarely one way, I think, to approach anything.
Yeah.
I mean, that's Ellen is Ellen saying that more as an actress, but I think there's many ways to look at many things, and so if there's a lot of ways to do that, then it's worth looking at them and then finding something and make it your own. If that answers, hopefully that.
Yeah. I mean, I totally agree with that. Now we're going to take a quick music break, and when we'll come back, we're going to talk some more, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Thank you for being out this late. I know it's a very inhumane thing to do, but...
Well, John, I'm old, but I can still stay up late.
Yeah. Well, hey, I mean, that's the biggest qualification of life, staying up late to be on the radio.